Welcome to Heart, where we break the silence, bridge the gaps, and bring real conversations about mental health to the forefront. I'm your host, Leigh Ioffe, founder and director of The Long Short Road. I'm so grateful to be joined by Julie Rothschild-Levi today. Hi, Julie.
Hi.
Julie is a Minnesota-born comedian and writer based in Rehovot, Israel, known for her humorous takes on the cultural nuances between American and Israeli life. Performing under the moniker Julieshtick, she has garnered a significant following on social media by creating comedic content that highlights the everyday absurdities and relatable experiences of life in Israel. Julie, I'm really grateful to have you here. So you call yourself an accidental influencer. And I want to get into that. And as I said, like your comedy has brought joy to so many people, myself included. So here's how I want to frame. The question I want to frame is why, but in this way. What led you not only to share your humor on social media, and you've garnered a huge following, right? But also your struggles with depression, your life in Israel, your experiences post October 7th. Like, why did you choose to bring these deeper layers of your life into the public space alongside your comedy and alongside, your characters?
So I think just we as human beings are multi-layered, and why I do make it a point to put out the comic stuff. I mean, that's what people are looking to me for, is just
Right.
to, take a little bit of a break, a little lightness in their day. It's good to laugh at ourselves. So, as much as that is the case, I feel like in particular, Instagram's a great platform for not only showing one side of ourselves, but a lot of different sides. The people who do follow me are largely women, about 75% women, 55% in North America,
Mhm.
and most of them are in like the majority in like the 30s to 50 range.
Okay.
And I call them my boboles. And these are women, I mean, everybody I want to reach out to, but that is really my niche audience. And it's really important for me to show everything because that's me. And I am a complex person. And every time I open up about my own struggles in life, I get so much feedback, as in, that sounds like me. I'm so glad you said something. And it's a blessing to be on the side of having suffered and having tasted what the darkness is, to be able to share about it and to talk about it in past tense.
Wow. Wow. That's beautiful to be able to talk about it in past tense. But also, like, one of the things that I so appreciate about the way that you show up on social media as someone who's in that space and also someone who is actively struggling with mental health challenges is that you don't mask when you're right, that you'll be honest about where you're holding in life. And I think that's I don't know. I feel like that's kind of something that we've lost with social media because it's also a very easy place to gloss over and create like the highlight reel of life. And I know especially like, your demographic is women my age and older. My demographic is younger women. And they're
Mhm.
often comparing themselves to what they see on social media and seeing one side of a multifaceted person. And so I just really appreciate that you are willing to peel back those layers. So going back to my other question, how do you choose what to share and what to keep private though? Because it like a mental health challenge is like it's a lot, right? I don't particularly feel like snapping a selfie and posting on Instagram on the days that I'm having a hard time getting out of bed.
Absolutely. Well, okay, so let me give you a little bit of a taste of what that darkness was like for me. I would say, the first time I really realized that I struggled with clinical depression was after my fourth son was born. I had really been through a lot of changes, had a baby, had recently moved to Israel, became religious. It's a lot of changes at once. And there was a lot of turmoil in my life. And when I couldn't, and I wasn't creating anything, I actually didn't do anything like this for about 20 years in the performing realm. And as I got a little bit more in tune with myself and found more stability, when I said it past tense, I know that these things recur. And I would love to say, that's it, I'm done, no more depression. I'm realistic because every time I thought I finished with a cycle, it was like,
Right.
yeah, right.
Me again, I'm
So
here.
there you go. I do feel, however, I have a lot more tools in my toolbox than I did before. And I have a much more knowledge and awareness of how I'm affected by it, what I need when I'm in a dark place. I think for me, I would have very low functioning depression. So when I was creating again, I couldn't.
Mm,
I have to step back. Now, I live in Israel, and since October 7th, it's been a very different type of reality. Thank God it hasn't affected me in terms of triggered my clinical depression. If anything, I think it's motivated me even more to try to heal that part of myself and hopefully others through laughter.
mm.
And yeah, so I just find that I would be very hard on myself, like, having the loser loop in my head. You can't get out of bed, you know, all you doing is laying around and watching Netflix. And then even then, it was like I only wanted to watch like depressing stuff on Netflix. I
Mhm.
couldn't. It was very hard to find the joy.
Yeah.
So when I say that past tense and now I'm in present tense, thank God, it's weird. It's like I look back on that time in my life and I know it was me, but it feels a little bit dulled. And yeah, and then I guess I just keep looking forward and seeing what I can do to not only help myself, but to help others.
Can you share some of the tools that you have tapped into over the years and what does work for you now when you hit that that experience of depression again?
So I find that just classic psychotherapy only got me so far. I feel like you can just talk about your childhood and what's wrong and people and that kind of thing forever.
Right.
But as far as like really being able to help myself, some things that have worked over the years was like more deeper work that was hard as far as looking at myself and not just what's wrong with other people, feeling victimized by other people, taking responsibility for perhaps my people pleasing nature, forgiving myself that I don't have to live up to certain standards that only I put on myself, not necessarily anybody else. And I would say the last real like therapy I did was amazing. It involved tapping, it involved manifestation, it involved writing down what I would want for myself. And every day I would say, "Hi, I'm Julie, and and I would list off all of these things that I wanted to be.
Wow.
I am loved, I'm loving, I'm successful, I'm funny, I'm creative." And in the beginning, it was like, I felt like I was a joke. I felt like I was just kind of forcing myself to say it. But then as I made progress, it just became like, this is me.
Like they were tools that help you take ownership of your healing. And like psychotherapy is great. And I think, something a through line that I've had with every guest on the show is what you just shared. That psychotherapy and talking about the challenges only got them so far, and that having some kind of an active role to play in their healing was a game changer.
Right, right. I think I'm with you. I got that. And that was yeah, it's my experience as well. And I think there's a point where in healing, okay, my experience really is I come from an overage, like a very high achieving family,
Okay.
and a family that just to me, I had this. And granted, okay, I was expected to go to college and expected to have a career, but that stopped there. Nobody ever forced me or pushed me into doing something I didn't want to do. But having come from that background, when I would see members of my family and what I considered achieving amazing things, I felt very like I belittled myself.
Mm.
And I very much had a mentality of like defeated, like a lot of just very negative self-talk. I can't. And then I had a lot of the should. I should, I should, I should, I should. And it took a lot of work to change that internal lingo. And yeah, so it's been completely life changing to be able to look at myself as a non-perfectionist now, forgiving of myself, forgiving of others.
Mm.
I think just accepting myself as a whole for who I am. And because I've done that, I'm more able to achieve my dreams.
Wow. Wow. That's so beautiful. And also, I hope gives hope to anyone who's listening who's in that headspace right now. The like, I should, I can't, everyone else is achieving, but I'm not. They're amazing. I'm terrible. I think a lot of us have that. I
I think
definitely have that.
especially
Especially women.
women, especially women, I
Yeah.
don't know where we picked that up from. I hope that changes in future generations.
Yeah.
But I want to tell you something. So I'm older than you. I'm in my mid 50s. I'm in a different stage of life. A lot of times people say, like, once you get to your solid middle age, you find yourself more. And I consider myself a late bloomer because I feel like I didn't get to this process until I turned about 50 years old.
Wow.
What I want to say to whoever's listening is if you find that you're not where you would love to be in life, that you're not able to achieve your dreams, whatever they may be, you're not at the place you thought you'd be at your age, it's okay because the time will come and you'll know.
Yeah.
I was not ready. I was not ready 5 years ago to put myself out there in the way that I am doing now. I was not ready to create a one woman show, which is what I'm doing now, which will not only have comedy in it, but it'll tell the story of my life and all parts of my life.
Wow.
You can't force that
Yeah.
and just trust that the time will come. And if, again, you are where you need to be. And I think that's also where faith and Munah comes into play. You're
Right.
where you need to be. If you accept that, things are going to be so much easier for you.
I needed to hear that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's it
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that we do, and again, like, we can go into the whole thing of, like, why is this? But I think that especially women, we have this idea of, like, there has to be a timeline. We have to achieve in a certain way. I do also think, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. I do think that there is a little added layer in our community of religious pressure, right? You have to be married by a certain age. You have to have had kids by a certain age. You have to, like, hit those marks and then also have a career and also be successful and also work out. It's like how,
Yeah.
you could go crazy. A person could go crazy with all those expectations.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
unfair.
Listen, I didn't grow up religious. I have 5 kids, thank God, that I would have never in a million years guessed that this was the life that I would live one day.
Wow.
Religious, big family, living in Israel, like I would have laughed in your face.
Yeah.
But this is where my life has brought me.
Right.
It's also by choice, it's also what I accept. And I think that I was also incredibly overwhelmed. And I think women overwhelm themselves. And I think that's also what we get tripped up on, that we think we should do everything, whatever that everything is. I think
Right.
it's impossible. I think at some point, either you or your family or somebody pays the price for that.
Yeah.
I think we're in a culture, we're in a society where everything is immediate, everything is fast. You call someone, right? You want them to pick up. You send them a WhatsApp message. They're going to answer right away.
Yeah.
Just need to like slow down a little bit and just say, hey, you know, it's
Right.
okay. We don't have to rush through this.
I just want to take a breath there, like before I go to my next question and embody that. It really, yeah, thank you, Julie, for sharing that. I think that there's so many people, myself included, who needed to hear that today. It's kind of, it feels almost like we're going in a completely different direction, but something that I have witnessed from being a follower of your account, really since you got started, is the incredible power of the community that you have built. You said before you call them your bobolas. And I want to just take a moment to talk with you about and hear from you about the ways that you have utilized your community and like tapped into your social media community since October 7th to help bring healing to the Jewish people, specifically through your tzedakah initiatives. One of them being Mamale, and I believe you also helped raise funds for the ID for soldiers. I Am I
Correct.
right? Right? So could
Yeah.
you share a little bit about that? I think that that's such a testament of the strength of community and the reach of social media, and also you, right, at who you are and the way that you've shown up has created such an incredible community of people who want to give. So could you speak a little bit about that?
I realized that my main platform is comedy, but I feel like if it's only comedy, it's empty. So with chesed, with acts of loving kindness, then it can be something meaningful. And like you said, there's so much posturing on social media. And I'm like, I don't need it perfect. I need it to be real and authentic. And I think people respond to that. I know that's what I look for with whoever I'm following on social media. So what I decided was after October 7th, it was very hard to create comic content. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing funny about what we were going through, not only here in Israel, but as a Jewish people.
Right.
And I started to focus more on what's around me. People wanted to see. I mean, over half my, let's say, only about 20% of my followers in Israel. So the vast majority are outside Israel. They wanted to see what is going on. That, like a yeshiva high school near me, right after October 7th, was used for soldiers who were in the reserves. They needed to train, they needed a place to sleep.
Wow.
It wasn't just me, it was probably everybody I know was involved somehow, either preparing meals or doing laundry. It was like one big family, and we just all felt so helpless. Like we
Yeah.
need to do something, right? Then I was talking to somebody who became a friend whose husband was in the reserves for a long time, and I thought, wow, I really feel for these women who are young kids at home, their husbands are off fighting a war, they don't know when they're going to see them again, to do something for them, just to help them feel better, to let them know people are thinking of them.
Yeah.
I raised some money with just to send like flowers or some sort of gift of like love, mostly from my American followers. And then that just catapulted into meals for reservist families. The power of community, it blew me away. The
Yeah.
Mama project, I really wanted to help support small businesses in Israel that were really hurting at the time. And I just connected with some other women. We put together lists and I started to raise money. So in the course of 3 months, I raised like over $30,000,
Wow.
mostly through my Instagram followers. And that was something that I didn't expect. I was completely surprised for the best, okay?
Right.
That people, A, trusted me because they weren't getting a tax donation receipt.
Right.
The money was coming to me, and they had to trust me that I'm gonna transfer it, and it was amazing. And then the last month of it, I did connect with a nonprofit, and then people were able to, take tax breaks from it. And then I'll be honest, I did it for like 3 months, and then at that point, I just kind of burnt out. Doing that sort of thing is hard on your own. And then, yeah, there's just always so much need. And so if I can use my platform to either raise money, to bring awareness, then I feel like I'm doing something beyond, you know,
Yeah.
beyond just doing shtick. Yeah,
It's like really incredible how, again, like I'm saying this as someone who, follows your account and I feel like I'm part of your community and I participated in the campaigns that you put together. And I remember getting a picture of one of the moms that received flowers when it was just like it's just so beautiful, and I so appreciate the way that you utilize your platform to add light to the world because we need it so badly. Like there's so much darkness right now.
absolutely.
And like we and And so that was actually something I wanted to ask you about, which you alluded to earlier, is like, how did you find the comfort and the balance in returning to comedy after October 7th? Like, I mean, I just know for myself, right? And like, I'm in a completely different space. I'm in the mental health and suicide prevention space. So post October 7th, there was a lot of emotional fires to be put out, right? So like that became, but like, and that felt almost like par for the course of that's par for the course of my job, right? For you to be in a position where your way of showing up, like the way that you give into the world is through comedy. How did you reconcile that? Because post October 7th, like I know there's nothing funny about what we're going through. How did you get back on this, so to speak, on the stage?
So it was really my followers who started to reach out and say, "Yeah, we need the funny."
Mm,
And at first I wasn't sure what to do with it because I live in Israel. A lot of my shtick is, let's say stereotyping silly things about Israelis, my experience as an American in Israel. And some of it I started to look at and I was like, I don't know how much I really want to make fun of
right,
Israel right now.
right.
I'm doing a little bit more now. But
Which I just have to say, they get better and better every time. You just
oh, thank
posted
you.
one, the pizza mishpachtit.
Mm.
I had to, like, not spit out my coffee from laughing. It was great. That made my day. Thank
Well,
you.
that's actually also an example of not I don't do it alone. People share funny things that they misspoke, right? In Hebrew, I collect translation blunders. It's not just me sitting here like popping this stuff out. I get
Right.
it. And then
It's
I love
community.
to, yeah, it is. It really is community.
Wow.
There's a quote by Viktor Frankl, and I really need to just put it in front of me, but this sums up why I started to get back to comedy again after October 7th. And the gist of it is Viktor Frankl was a Holocaust survivor and he wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning.
Right.
And he said he never could have survived what he did if it weren't for a laugh and a smile.
Wow.
That he was in the darkest place that we can imagine, God forbid. And because he was still able to see a little bit of funny in whatever it was, he was able to pull through. So I really use that as, I guess, my guiding force
Wow.
to this. And because I'm also a consumer of Instagram, I follow a lot of the news accounts, the Jewish accounts, and I also am like overwhelmed with heaviness. If anything, it motivates me more to just do my shtick.
We really need it. We really need it. There was a series of essays that Viktor Frankl gave immediately following the Holocaust. I think it was like the first lectures that he gave were published in English for the first time, I think in 2018. And the title of the book was Yes to Life in Spite of Everything. And that's what I like as you were reading that quote, I'm like, yes, that's exactly it. We have to keep saying yes to life. And part of saying yes to life is finding the humor. Wow.
It's true.
My last question for you as we're wrapping up our time is what gives you hope? And I'll frame that with saying I believe today is 600 days of the war.
Yeah.
So, what gives
Yeah.
you hope in a continuous I mean, like, this is like a continuous waking hell that we're in. So, how do you
Yes.
find hope?
My main source of hope comes from my faith, that it's a concept I didn't grow up with, which was Mashiach, which is that at the end, Torah says that we will be brought to a much better day. And in English, it's called redemption, which, okay, to me, it sounds a bit like Christian,
Yeah.
but there's a point on our timeline as Jewish people where we will get to the days when the darkness is behind us.
Yeah.
And this is something that every generation has believed, really since the giving of the Torah. So that is something I hold on to is my faith, and also as much work as it is, that everything is for the best.
Mm,
We can't purport to understand why October 7th happened. We
mm,
can't purport to understand why the Holocaust happened. And I
right.
feel like anybody who tries to explain it doesn't know.
Right. Well,
It's
because
beyond us.
we know that we have a limited understanding.
Yeah, exactly. And I always think of us like we're in a maze, right? Like let's say we're in a corn maze and we're trying to find the way out. And I look at like God looking down on us and he can see the way out. We just don't. And we need to get there and be patient for the journey. I think we all need to do our own part in whatever way we can, in the smallest ways, just to um just to have hope. Because just a few generations ago, I know like my grandparents went through the Holocaust
Right. As did
and
mine.
came out of it. And it's like, and at the end of the day, yeah, we're not going to go anywhere. I mean, the Jewish people is here to stay.
Yeah.
Israel is a gift from God. And as much hate as they're out there, misunderstanding, so much confusion, so much upside down, I feel like the truth will always win. How's that answer?
Well, it's the answer I needed to hear. I don't know if it's funny to say this, but one of the experiences that American Jews living in the stick, Jews living in the States have had is that not that we feel removed, but it's almost like it's almost I find that people in Israel are able to tap into Amuna more than we are in the States.
Hmm.
That's just been my experience, and like
Yeah,
remembering that like Hashem is in charge and there's a lot of things that we don't know. And as much as it would be so nice if we would be able to lift the veil and just see the whole picture, that's not where we're at. But that all of the generations before us were able to also, to move forward and to tap into resilience. I think it's in our bloodline to be resilient.
exactly. I like what you said about how it's harder, I think, outside of Israel to connect with that. Living in Israel, having, the sirens will go off pretty frequently. You hear booms, you go to your safe room. The amount of miracles that we experience in this country is mind-boggling. Like
Yeah.
you can't even fathom what they're like.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where, as horrible as it is to have a siren and to be yanked out of bed at 2 in the morning and run to your safe room, it's like, I don't know, there's a feeling of protectiveness that we are being protected. It's something beyond our understanding. It's something beyond the Iron Dome, which is incredible, but it's beyond man for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, you really see Hashem's hand guiding everything.
Yes, you do. And I want to turn that back to mental health and to depression. And when I was really having like my low points of depression, and I do take medication, I want to put it out there. I take medication, which is a part of a wellness plan. I take two different types of medication. Right. So even in my darkest times, um, I still had I still had faith that even as hard as it was, this was really for my good.
Mm,
It didn't feel like it at the time, but now I can look back and say that
yeah.
because it made me more authentically me.
Mm. That's a really powerful way of framing it. I often tell people that I don't wish the traumatic experiences that I've had on my worst enemies, but I also know that if I hadn't had those experiences, I wouldn't be who I am. And to erase my pain would also be to erase who I am in the present moment. And
Yeah.
so to be able to frame it as a ultimately as a gift for the highest good, it takes a lot of work though. Like that takes a lot of inner work to get to that place where you're able to see that.
It does, and it doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
And I wanted to say something to people perhaps listening to this who have loved ones who are struggling and don't know how to help them.
Yeah.
I think what's really important is the person who's struggling has a lot of negative self-talk going on. I certainly did. I knew that being in bed wasn't good. Okay. It wasn't something that was to aspire to. There were times it just was physically so difficult for me to get out of bed, or just taking a shower was an accomplishment for the day.
Yeah.
So they don't need to hear that they should be doing this. Come on, just get up, get out of bed.
Right.
It's really important to communicate with them what they want or what they need and just to accept it. I think I want to say that one of the times that I was in a therapy, um, and I would report to my therapist and say, yeah, I couldn't get out of bed until 11 o'clock today. And I feel like I wasted half my day. And she was like, okay,
Okay. Right.
it's okay. That's okay too.
Right.
Right.
This is where you're at right now. This is where your story is
Yeah,
right now.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, like, I think just accepting, knowing it won't always be like that, and not to pressure are really big things. And then for somebody who is in it, it seems like it's never ending. It seems like life will never be as it once was. And I would just, and thank God, like I wasn't, you talk about suicide. I wasn't actively suicidal, but I would have thoughts of like, well, what would it be like if a car happened to hit me?
Right.
You know? And I think it was just a cry for, I just don't want to be in this pain anymore. I don't want to wake up to another day like this.
Yeah.
And it's a very scary place to be.
Yeah.
But I think this is also where faith can come into play, no matter how religious or not religious you are, which is that just know we don't know what the next day is going to bring. We don't know what the next week is going to bring. And it's not always going to be like this moment.
Right. Yeah. I really I so appreciate you framing it that way. I think so often the people who are the supports are at such a loss of what to do, and they sometimes will behave in ways that are counterproductive because they just don't know, but like they just don't know, right? And I think we need to remember, and I try to remind people this as often as I can, that a mind that's in that much pain is not operating in the same place
Right.
as someone who's not. And, to treat someone, one I can't remember who I heard this from, but it's almost like when someone is in that much distress or pain or anxiety, their nervous system is not operating where it could be, and they need to borrow ours, right? They need to
Mhm.
borrow a calm, loving, compassionate, non-judgmental space because they can't hold that for themselves right now, right? I know that when I'm in my spirals, like, forget it. The things that I'm thinking are terrible. And often what we need is someone to have that grounding place for us to say, "It's okay for you to be as you are." And with that love and compassion, then can come eventually our own ability to, we can come out of it, but not through force and not through judgment.
Absolutely. And another big breakthrough thing for me was acknowledging that what I'm thinking isn't necessarily reality.
Right,
That thoughts that we create in our own minds are in our own minds.
right,
Doesn't mean that that person thinks like this about us or will say this thing about us. And and that's also, I think, part of the forgiveness that,
mhm,
okay, it sounds like, oh, well, whatever I'm thinking is not real. So whatever I'm thinking is made up, blah, blah. Well, that's not necessarily the case, but
right,
I think it brings you back down to the ground that, okay, everybody walks around like this, right? We all come up with how we see things, what we think this person is projecting onto us,
right,
all walking around in a half reality, perhaps,
right, for sure.
right? But if you realize that what you're saying to yourself, what's going on in your head, okay, it might not really be what's going on out there.
Right,
Then you can also give yourself some grace.
right. Yeah, oftentimes I'll say to myself, my mind is telling me a story right now. I can choose not to believe the story.
Hmm.
I don't have to listen to the story. I can listen to what the story is telling me. I don't have to believe it. Julie, I'm so grateful to you for your time and your vulnerability. And just thank you so much for sharing so much of yourself. You can learn more about Julie and follow her comedy at julieshtick, right? On Instagram.
Right. Julie
Absolutely.
Shtick on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, but under my name is Julie Rothschild-Levi. The real community is on Instagram. And yeah, I hope to see you there for a little levity. And thank you so much, Leigh, for this, because I have been doing many podcasts and I touch on the mental health stuff, but I love being able to go in and to share because, as you know, when you're in a depression, you are so lonely.
Yeah.
So lonely.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for helping everyone feel less lonely in this journey. I really appreciate it. I'm so grateful to you.
Thanks so much, Leigh.
Thank you for tuning in to Heart to Heart. If you or someone you love is struggling, please know there is hope and help is within reach. Since 2019, the Long Short Road has been walking alongside at-risk individuals, offering trauma-informed programs, a non-emergency hotline, and a community that fosters healing. No one has to go through this alone, and we are here for you. Discover how the Long Short Road is changing lives. Visit www.thelongshortroad.com or email us at info@thelongshortroad.com to learn more. You can be part of this mission. Sponsorship opportunities for Heart to Heart are available. Honor a loved one, support your community, and help us make mental wellness resources accessible to those who need them most. Until next time, remember, love and connection are the greatest healers. This is Leigh Ioffe reminding you, hope is here, healing is possible, and you are never alone. Together, we're walking this long, short road to a brighter future.